Happy DNA Day, everybody. My name is Erin Schertz from Family Search, and we are so excited to celebrate with you. And what better way to celebrate than we have this special guest here, Ron Smear. He is the Vice President of Product for MyHeritage, and he is specifically over the product management of DNA and of their mobile app and their DNA products specifically. We're so excited to learn from him because, as we all know, DNA changes, it evolves, and there's so many advancements, and he's going to help us understand more about that today. Welcome, Ron.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you so much for having me. Happy DNA Day.
Happy DNA Day. And I don't know where everyone is watching from, but please tell us in the chat where you're watching this DNA Day from. Ron happens to be, it's what, 7 p.m. where you are in the Netherlands?
In the Netherlands today, yes.
He's there celebrating another holiday, which is King's Day tomorrow. But right now we're going to focus on celebrating that special DNA. It's been 26 years since DNA has been used. Is that right? You can probably correct me on that. Last year we celebrated the 25th anniversary.
So that'll be the 26th, yeah.
So I'm thinking it's probably 26 if my math's correct. So we're happy to do that with you today. So without further ado, I want to let everyone know that's watching, please ask your questions. We have an expert here who can answer them. So please ask your questions that you've had about DNA research for genealogy, for learning more about your heritage, and for connection. And we will get those questions to Ron. If you're watching this after the live, please still add your questions, and we will see if he can lend us some of his time to answer them. So with that, so let's just get to the basics, Ron. What is DNA, and why is it important for family history?
Well, that's a very big question to start with, I must say. And there are various ways how to answer what is DNA. But for the simplicity and in the context we're discussing today, DNA is what defines us, is what makes us who we are, each one of us separately. There's a lot of DNA that all of us share as humans, but there's a slight portion that's different between one another. And that is what we are looking at when we're discussing DNA for genealogy purposes. So we want to understand and look what genetics can tell us about people's backgrounds, family connections, those kind of things. We won't make it a biology class, I promise. But in a nutshell, each one of us, we inherit 50% of our DNA from our father and 50% from our mother, 25% from each one of our grandparents, 12.5% one generation up. And we also share DNA with our other blood relatives, uncles and cousins in different amounts. And that's the reason why it's fascinating and why it's so relevant for us. Because since we started offering at MyHeritage, for example, at-home DNA testing for genealogy purposes, people were able to learn more about their past, where their ancestors came from, and also find new family members they didn't know of, or were use DNA as kind of an evidence to the family research that they were doing.
And when someone purchases a DNA kit from MyHeritage, their results are uploaded. They're able to see their results, and then you show them connections that they might have.
Yeah, so I'll say a few words about that, and then maybe I'll share my personal results even. So when you take an at-home DNA test with MyHeritage, you are basically getting two types of reports or results, all right? Maybe actually I can share, just let me know if you can see it. Give me just 1 second. Oh, sorry. Can you see it?
I can see it. Absolutely.
All right. So the first type of report that we are giving you is what we call an ethnicity estimate. This report is something that we look into the DNA. After you've taken the test, we analyze your DNA, and we're telling you, based on a research that we have done at MyHeritage and a reference panel that we have created, a model, where your ancestors came from, what your ethnic background is. So in my case, as you can see here on the left, I'm Ashkenazi Jewish from both sides of my family, with a little bit, some from the Eastern Europe and some from the Western Europe. We have a pool of 79 different percentage-based ethnicities from which we can tell you where your background is from. We can also pinpoint to more specific areas, as you might see those 3 ovals in the middle of the screen. And this goes about 7 to 8 generations back. So as I mentioned before, we inherit about 50% from each parent, etc. So those percentages, they, are kind of forming us. We're getting those of the characteristics of the ethnicities of our ancestors. They live among us. So this is what the test can see and what it can represent, as you can see here in these results. I'll say just a few words because recently we've launched a new feature called Ancient Origins, which takes it even a bit further, up to 10,000 years ago, something new that we can do today. And we can look at your ancient origins breakdown, for example, in different time periods in history, and tell you even further back what your origins are or what your ancient origins are. So this is kind of like going through Bronze Age to Iron Age, Roman era, and Middle Ages, and you can see what forms me. These are my personal results, by the way. So that is kind of like the first part of the product, telling you about your ethnicity estimate and ancient origins. They're kind of grouped together, you can say. And the second part, which is more for the family history researchers, I'd say, are the DNA matches. The way we do DNA matches, or the way to think about DNA matching, or cousin matching as we sometimes refer to it, is that we look at your DNA results after you've taken the test. We look at that and we're matching that data, your genetic profile, to the other millions, about 9 million people who are already on MyHeritage, or have already taken a DNA test. And we're trying to look for genetic similarities between you and those people who have already taken a DNA test. And we're trying to see whether you have a certain amount of shared DNA and how much of shared DNA you have, so that we can kind of predict like how close they are to you. What should be the relationship? As I said, like 50% is a parent, 25% can be a grandparent or an uncle. So if I switch now to the list of my DNA matches, you'll be able to see here my immediate family members. So you can see I share 50% with my father and 50% with my daughter. That also applies. I've also tested her, and my mom and my son and another daughter and a brother and grandmother and aunt. I've tested quite a few family members, as you can see. And this is kind of like a different approach to do genealogy, something that didn't exist before. So before, we used to work with paper trails, looking at historical documents, looking at family trees, trying to figure out, to break those brick walls using documents. And DNA testing gives something else. It's kind of like showing things that might have not have been there before. There are no paper trails leading to that, but you might see here a person who we suggest to you is a close family member that you've never heard about or you don't know about. And that can open the door to a new research or like a new branch that you wish to look at. I have some personal success stories maybe in the next DNA day, but that's the cool thing. And I think that where we made it even greater is that we're taking the evidence, the genetic evidence that you and another person are probably related, and we're trying to match it with tree information that we have from both your tree and his tree. So this is my aunt, but we can tell you, for example, that she also has a family tree on MyHeritage with about 2,400 people in it. There are ancestral surnames common to me and her. We have smart matches, probably the same individuals in both trees. There are some ancestral places common to all of us, and many more tools that we are offering our users on MyHeritage to help you figure out how you are related. Because genetics will tell you there is a connection, but we can't really say exactly how it is. How are you related? So me and Iris, for example, yes, she's my aunt, but how? Is she the sister of my father, the sister of my mother? And using all the tree information that both I have on MyHeritage and she has, we're making those connections. We're trying to narrow down and giving you hints and help you do your research, trying to understand what exactly is the connection between the two of you.
That's amazing, because I would say that probably most people don't know how to interpret DNA results. So it's great that you have tools for that. I have a question so it's been about 26 years since people were able to take DNA tests and upload results and find connections. Is there any difference between like more people now testing and what you might find, do things change and evolve, or is the story the same if you took it 20 years ago or you took it a year ago?
That's a very good question. I'd say that the answer splits into two. One, as more people test, the likelihood that you'll be able to find a new relative, for example, increases because there are more people testing. The beauty about DNA testing is that, and about DNA inheritance actually, is that you don't need like a specific person to take a DNA test, because if my aunt took a test or my cousin, her son took a test, they'll both appear in my list. So sometimes like one person can help, can start like a new line of research, and sometimes he can be the hint, that exact piece of evidence we needed to solve a case that we were already looking at. So one, yeah, as more people test, it makes things much like it increases the chances of finding something valuable. And I'd also say that the science is progressing all the time. We are adding more and more tools and more improvements and enhancements to the product, because we know more, because we can do better research, because we have better reference, because of progress that we are making internally in the way that we are analyzing and researching how to work with DNA data. So the ethnicity estimate, for example, that I showed you now, the report of indicating that I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, it's actually an update that we released in January of this year after many years, because we were able to gather so many more people, and we were able to fine tune and make our algorithms more accurate because we have a bigger user base of people. So in the past, if two ethnicities used to mix, for example, or had very similar characteristics, genetic characteristics, we are now able to break those apart and do it with higher certainty. So I think that I've been with MyHeritage since 2017. That's pretty much when we launched DNA, and I'm like shocked from where we were back then and where we are today, both in the stories that we have from our users, the success stories, and the how often those come up, and also from what the product can offer today and which capabilities it has today that it didn't have before. So definitely.
I love that. And I think there's a question that people ask themselves all the time, which is, what can I do? Maybe they think that their tree is pretty full or whatever. It sounds like, from what you're saying, just getting a DNA test is really helpful in helping people make connections. But what about people who have died? What about that? Can you test for people who have been deceased, and how does that work?
So you'd still need to take a DNA test. We'd still need the genetic of that individual. If someone had taken a DNA test, you were lucky enough to test someone before he passed away, we do support on MyHeritage the option to upload raw DNA data. So if you were lucky enough to test before on MyHeritage or with another platform, with another service, that is possible. And I will say about that for many years now, there's been for a couple of years now, there's been an attempt to try and sequence or be able to generate DNA from artifacts, so like a toothbrush or hairbrush. The success rates to date, it actually kind of complements the previous question. The technology progresses very well. It's getting to better results, but it's not yet in the success rate that we would have hoped. So currently today, no, but I believe that in the future, that yes, if you'll have some sort of an artifact, or someone, for example, that he like licked a stamp that he put on an envelope, the DNA is there and it remains there for years. So if you have those envelopes, for example, keep them, because we'll be able probably to extract the DNA of those individuals in a couple of years from now.
That's so fascinating.
I know it's science fiction, but
what can be possible. But what happens, Ron, if you decide you upload your DNA and then you actually decide, oh, I don't want that information out there? Is it too late? That ship has sailed, or what can you do?
No, it's not. It's up to you. On MyHeritage, whether you've uploaded or you've taken your DNA test, you've seen your results. By the way, we give lots of options of what type of information you want to share with others, like the DNA match. Do you want to participate? Yes or not? Up to you. You can just look at the ethnicity estimate. That's perfectly fine. No one will ever see you as a DNA match for them. And if you decided that you don't want your DNA to be stored, you want to delete the results, with a click of a button, immediately the data is removed. And but I must say, cannot be restored. I mean, you can take a new DNA test, but deleting it and removing it from the website. Yeah.
Along those lines, we are getting some questions in the chat. If they've done a DNA test with another company, should they also do one with MyHeritage? What are the benefits? Is that necessary? What do you suggest?
So I'd say that we don't have too much time now, unfortunately, to explain all of the pros and cons of how to do it. There's some information about it in our blog. I do recommend taking a test with DNA. There are some features that we can only provide to those who have taken a test with MyHeritage DNA, and but it's also currently optional. It's also possible to upload your data. Yeah.
Sounds very collaborative, which is awesome for people who have already done one. But if they want to take a MyHeritage DNA test, where can we send them?
I believe there's a link that's coming up now. But all of you, it will probably come up, but you can just go to myheritage.com/DNA and start from there. Be prepared to be amazed, I guess.
Let's do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm convinced now. I need to do this. So if you're watching and listening in, there's so much good that can come from DNA. Ron, you've really opened up our eyes to what the possibilities are. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And again, if you have questions and you're watching this after we were live, that's okay. Just ask them in the chat. We'll make sure that we keep on top of those things and get all of your questions answered. And our moderators are also going to put in the chat the links to some of the things that we've been talking about, the links to the MyHeritage DNA kits and the other things that we've referenced. So thank you so much for joining us. Everyone have a great DNA day.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.